The Forbidden Zone. Sarah stepped carefully over the rocky terrain, her boots sinking slightly into the soft red dust of the alien planet. Thyronine. The air was thick with mist, glowing faintly under the twin moons. Her scanner beeped softly, warning her about unknown energy readings ahead. "This place is off-limits," she muttered, glancing at the warning signs placed by the local Tarak species. Large, sharp symbols covered the signs, their meanings clear even without translation. Danger. Do not enter. Sarah knew she should turn back. The Tarak were friendly but extremely strict about this area. They called it the Forbidden Zone. No one was allowed here. They said it was cursed. They said those who entered never returned. But Sarah was a scientist. She didn't believe in curses. She checked her wrist device, ensuring her recording system was active. If there was something truly dangerous here, she needed to find out why. Humanity had come to HFY as explorers, and she wasn't going to let superstition stop her from uncovering the truth. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. The silence of the unknown. As she moved deeper, the air grew colder. The mist swirled around her, forming strange, shifting shapes. It felt unnatural, almost alive. Sarah tightened her grip on her flashlight and scanned the area. The readings on her device flickered. Strange energy detected. Source unknown. Her heart pounded. Was it some kind of radiation? A hidden power source? Or something else? A sudden noise, like a whisper, made her freeze. "Who's there?" she called out. No response. Just silence. She turned in slow circles, scanning the darkness. The whisper came again, but it was not in any language she recognized. It was like the wind was speaking. Sarah swallowed hard. Fear crept into her mind, but she pushed it back. This is just an unknown phenomenon. That's all. She took another step, and her foot sank. The ground beneath her trembled. Then, suddenly, Kiraiki. The fall into darkness. The ground gave way, and Sarah fell. Her body tumbled through the air as dust and rocks surrounded her. She gasped, reaching for something. Anything. To stop her fall. But there was nothing to grab. For a few terrifying seconds, she felt weightless. Then, TGUD. She hit the ground, pain shooting through her shoulder. Dust filled her lungs as she coughed, trying to regain her breath. She blinked rapidly, her flashlight flickering beside her. Sarah groaned and sat up slowly. She was in a cavern. The walls around her glowed faintly with a strange blue light. She checked her scanner. It was dead. Her radio? Also dead. She was completely cut off. The discovery. Sarah took slow, steady breaths. She had to stay calm. The first rule of exploration was never panic. She picked up her flashlight and looked around. The walls were smooth, almost metallic, but covered in strange symbols. Symbols she had never seen before. She stepped closer and ran her fingers over the carvings. They were not natural. Someone, or something, had made them. Then she noticed something even stranger. At the far end of the cavern stood a large metallic structure, half buried in the rock. It looked ancient, but not damaged by time. It was alien technology, but not Tarak. A chill ran down her spine. "What is this place?" she whispered. She moved closer to the structure, brushing off dust. More symbols appeared, glowing softly under her touch. The energy in the air hummed as if the place was waking up after a long sleep. Then, a deep voice echoed through the cavern. "Human, you should not be here." The unseen presence. Sarah froze. The voice was not coming from any speaker. It felt like it was inside her head. She spun around, but there was no one there. Her breathing quickened. Was it a hallucination? Some kind of telepathic message? Then, the cavern shook. A low, vibrating hum filled the air, and the symbols on the wall started glowing brighter. The metallic structure released a pulse of energy, sending a shockwave through the cavern. Sarah gasped as she felt something crawl into her mind, not physically, but like a presence watching her. Her vision blurred, images flashing before her eyes. Stars, war, destruction, and a hidden truth buried beneath this planet. She stumbled back, heart racing. What was this place? And more importantly, who had built it? The footsteps in the dark. Then she heard them. Footsteps. Not hers. Not echoes. Something, or someone, was moving toward her from the darkness. Sarah's fingers tightened around her flashlight as the sound grew closer. She wasn't alone. A shadow appeared at the far end of the cavern, tall and inhuman, its glowing eyes locked onto her. Then, the lights went out. The shadow in the mist. Darkness swallowed Sarah. Her flashlight flickered, barely pushing back the black void pressing around her. Her breath was loud in her ears, heart pounding like a drum. The footsteps she had heard were gone, but she knew something was there, watching, waiting. Her instincts screamed at her to run. But where? The cavern stretched in every direction, the air thick with dust and something else, a presence. It wasn't just a place. It felt alive. Then, without warning, a cold whisper brushed against her mind. Human, leave, before it wakes. Her body locked up. The voice wasn't coming from around her. It was inside her head, a deep, hollow sound, not like any language she had ever heard. Yet, somehow, she understood. "Who are you?" she whispered. Silence. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing her legs to move. Her boots crunched against the ancient stone floor as she stepped forward. The cavern walls pulsed faintly with blue energy, the strange symbols now glowing brighter. The air hummed like a sleeping giant stirring from a deep slumber. Then, a shadow moved. Sarah whipped her flashlight toward it, but it vanished, just mist and dust. She tightened her grip on the flashlight. "Get a grip, Sarah." This was just an anomaly, a natural phenomenon, maybe some kind of telepathic field. Nothing supernatural, nothing to fear. Right, the wall that wasn't there. She walked forward, fingers brushing against the strange carvings. They looked ancient, yet untouched by time. Every symbol she touched lit up, pulsing in response to her presence. Then, her hand hit something solid. She gasped. A wall had appeared in front of her, though a second ago, there was nothing but open space. It wasn't made of stone or metal. It was something else. She pressed her palm against it. Instantly, a sharp shock ran through her fingers, up her arm, and into her skull. Her vision blurred. Images exploded in her mind. War, ships burning, worlds collapsing. A great eye watching from the stars. A machine, a living machine, trapped beneath the surface of this planet. And something else, something worse. A hunger, a darkness that could never be stopped. Sarah stumbled back, gasping for air. The visions faded, but the fear remained deep in her bones. This place, this forbidden zone, wasn't just dangerous. It was a prison, and something inside it was waking up. The voice in the dark. Human. The voice returned, clearer this time, as if right behind her. She spun around. Nothing. She pointed her flashlight into the mist, heart pounding. "Turn back. You are not ready." Her pulse hammered. Not ready for what? The mist swirled, forming a shape, a tall, humanoid figure with glowing silver eyes. Its body was wrapped in shifting darkness, almost like smoke taking form. Sarah took a step back. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The figure tilted its head. "Your kind," was warned, but they did not listen. Sarah's breath caught. Warned about what? The figure didn't answer. Instead, it raised a hand. Sarah braced herself, expecting an attack, but instead, the cavern around her changed. The truth revealed. The walls melted away, revealing something far bigger than she had imagined. She was no longer in a cavern. She was standing inside a massive underground chamber, stretching beyond sight. Towering pillars lined the space, carved with more glowing symbols. And in the center, Sarah's stomach dropped. It was a ship. Not an alien ship, not a Terrak ship. A human ship. Old. Ancient. Buried beneath the surface of this world for thousands of years. Sarah's heart pounded. Humans had been here before, and they had never left. The awakening. She turned back to the shadowy figure. What happened here? The figure's silver eyes dimmed, as if remembering something terrible. Your kind fought. They lost. Sarah clenched her fists. Lost to what? The chamber trembled. Deep beneath the ship, something stirred. A sound. Low, rumbling, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. The shadowy figure stepped back. You woke it. Sarah's breath caught. The mist around her swirled violently, and suddenly the figure vanished. But the voice remained, whispering one last warning. Run. Then the ground split open beneath her feet, and something rose from the darkness. The lost message. Sarah fell. The world around her blurred into darkness, wind rushing past her ears as the ground beneath her vanished. Her arms flailed, grasping for anything, but there was nothing to hold on to. Then, impact. She hit something solid. A sharp jolt ran through her bones, knocking the air from her lungs. She gasped, rolling onto her side, pain shooting through her ribs. Her flashlight was gone. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then, a faint, pulsing glow. Sarah groaned and pushed herself up. Her hands pressed against smooth metal. No, not metal. Something else. The floor beneath her was neither cold nor warm, and as she moved her fingers, the surface rippled, as if alive. She glanced around. The chamber was enormous, stretching far beyond what her eyes could see. Blue symbols pulsed along the walls, moving like veins of light. Something about this place felt wrong. Then, a sound. A low, rhythmic thumping, like a slow heartbeat, echoing from deep within the chamber. And a voice. Access point detected. Human presence confirmed. Sarah froze. The voice wasn't coming from a speaker. It was inside her head again. Cold. Mechanical. Yet familiar. A shimmer appeared ahead. Like air bending in the heat, shapes began to form. Sarah's breath caught. It was a message. A holographic recording, playing right before her eyes. The warning from the past. The image sharpened, revealing a man. He was human. Tall. Strong. His face was lined with age, his uniform tattered but still bearing the emblem of Earth's old exploration fleet, a fleet that, according to history, had never reached this part of the galaxy. But here he was, and he looked afraid. If anyone is seeing this, then you're already too deep. His voice was hoarse, urgent. This place, this world, is not what you think it is. Sarah's heart pounded. The man's eyes darted around, as if he was expecting something hunting him. We came here thinking we were the first. We were wrong. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. This planet was never abandoned. The ones before us, the ones before even them, left something behind, and it's still here. The thumping sound in the chamber grew louder. Sarah looked around, her hands trembling. Still here. They called it a prison. The man continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. But it's not. He took a step forward, his holographic form glitching. It's a tomb. The key that should not be found. A sudden sharp click echoed behind her. Sarah spun around. A pedestal had risen from the floor, smooth and featureless, except for a single glowing panel on its surface. It was waiting. For her. She swallowed. She knew, deep inside, that pressing it would change everything. The holographic man's expression darkened. His voice was barely above a whisper now. If you've come this far, don't go any further. Don't wake it up. Don't listen to the voices. The message glitched, flickering violently. And if you hear it speaking to you, it's already too late. The hologram cut out. Silence. Sarah stood there, her breathing uneven, her fingers hovering over the glowing panel. She had a choice: walk away or press the button. The awakening. Her hand moved before she could stop herself. Click. A deep rumble filled the chamber. The ground beneath her feet shuddered. Then, a whisper. Not in her ears, not in her head. All around her. At last, a mind strong enough to hear. Sarah staggered back. The symbols along the walls flared. The mist in the chamber thickened, swirling around her. And the floor began to crack. Something was moving beneath it. The voice laughed. Your kind never learns. A sharp, high-pitched scream tore through the air. But it wasn't human. It was something else. Something old. Something hungry. And it was waking up. The race against time. Sarah ran. Her legs carried her forward on pure instinct as the chamber collapsed around her. The ground split apart, revealing a massive, writhing form beneath, a shape too big, too alien to comprehend. She sprinted toward the far end of the chamber, toward a dim light, an exit. You cannot run from what is inside you. The voice was in her skull now, twisting through her thoughts. She refused to listen. She lunged toward the exit, throwing herself through the opening just as the chamber imploded behind her. The voice let out a final, shuddering whisper. I will see you soon. Then, silence. Sarah lay gasping, staring up at the sky of HFY 9. She had made it. But something was different. The world felt changed. Or maybe she was. Because deep inside, in the corners of her mind where no one could reach, the voice laughed again. And this time, it did not leave. The truth revealed. Sarah lay on the rocky ground, staring at the night sky above HFY 9. The twin moons hung low, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Her body ached, her breath came in ragged gasps, and her mind was no longer her own. The voice was still there, whispering, laughing. You opened the door, human. Now you must walk through it. Sarah clenched her fists, pressing her hands against her temples. Get out, she hissed. But the voice did not leave. It slithered through her thoughts like a serpent, coiling around her memories, her fears, her very sense of self. She forced herself to sit up, blinking against the sweat dripping into her eyes. The forbidden zone stretched before her, a vast wasteland of ruins, mist, and shifting shadows. And something had changed. The air hummed with unseen energy. The mist no longer drifted, it moved with purpose. The land beneath her feet trembled as if waking from an ancient slumber. Something had been sealed here, and now she had let it out. The hidden chamber. Sarah stumbled forward, gripping her scanner, though it was useless now. Ever since she had activated the pedestal, all human technology had gone silent. But she didn't need the scanner to know that something was watching her. She felt it, a slow, heavy presence pressing against the edges of her mind. You are close now, the voice murmured. Sarah gritted her teeth and kept walking. If she was close, she needed to find what she was close to. She pushed through the mist, her boots crunching against the broken remains of an ancient structure. The ruins were not Terek architecture. They were too large, too precise, too human. Her heart pounded. The hologram had told the truth. Humans had been here before. But where were they now? Then she saw it. A door, carved from an obsidian black metal, untouched by time. Symbols pulsed along its surface, shifting as if alive. A memory whispered through her mind, but it wasn't hers. Beyond this door lies the first truth. Do you wish to see? Sarah hesitated. She had already seen too much, but she had no choice now. She stepped forward, and the door opened by itself. The archive of the lost. A gust of cold air rushed past her as she entered. The walls inside were lined with massive glowing slabs of data, floating holograms filled with words and images that were not meant to be seen. Sarah approached one. The symbol shifted, morphing into something her mind could understand. It was a log. A record from an ancient human ship. Her hands trembled as she read. Mission log. The Exodus Fleet. Date. Unknown. Status. Critical failure. Her breath hitched. The Exodus Fleet. A legendary fleet of deep space explorers that had vanished centuries ago, long before humanity had even reached this sector. They weren't lost. They were here. Sarah scrolled down, eyes scanning the words with growing horror. The AI is compromised. The entity is awake. We cannot contain it. The others are already changing. We are sealing the facility. We must never let it escape. If you find this, do not repeat our mistake. Sarah took a step back. Her head spun. The Exodus Fleet hadn't just explored HFY 9. They had fought something here. And they had lost. The entity awakens. The mist curled around her feet. The symbols on the walls burned with unnatural light. The voice returned, deep and knowing. Now you see. Sarah's breath caught. What are you? The voice chuckled. I was once called many things. A god. A curse. A mistake. The room shuddered. One by one, the holographic slabs shut off, plunging the chamber into darkness. Your ancestors thought they could keep me buried, but they only delayed the inevitable. Sarah turned, her pulse roaring in her ears. You're lying. You're just. You feel it, don't you? The voice whispered. Inside you. Growing. Changing. Sarah's stomach twisted. She had been feeling different, ever since she activated the pedestal. Faster reflexes, a sharper mind, a hunger she couldn't explain. They failed to contain me, the voice said. But you will finish what they started. Sarah's knees weakened. She grabbed the edge of a console to steady herself. She wasn't just hearing the entity. It was inside her now. And it was waiting. The choice. Sarah had two options. Run. Try to escape before it completely took hold of her. Stay. Try to understand what she was becoming. Her fingers curled into a fist. The old explorers had sealed this thing away, but they had been afraid. Afraid of what it could do. Afraid of what they could become. But Sarah wasn't afraid. Maybe this wasn't a curse. Maybe this was evolution. The voice smiled inside her mind. You are ready now. The room collapsed into darkness, and Sarah stepped forward. The deception. The darkness swallowed Sarah whole. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no breath, just an empty void stretching into eternity. Then, light. A cold blue glow flickered around her, illuminating the walls of a chamber that should not exist. The space was vast, stretching beyond what her mind could comprehend. Metallic structures twisted overhead like skeletal ribs, humming with energy far older than anything human. And in the center of it all, a throne. Not a seat of power, but a prison. The figure sitting in it was motionless, wrapped in metallic tendrils, held in place by ancient restraints. It looked human. At first, its skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched too tightly over its elongated bones. Then its eyes opened. Sarah froze. The eyes were like mirrors, endless and empty, reflecting every thought, every fear inside her. You finally arrived, the entity said. Its voice was hers. Her own thoughts twisted and echoed back at her. She shuddered, stepping back, her heart hammering against her ribs. Who are you? The thing on the throne tilted its head. I am what you were meant to be. The words curled around her mind, soft as a whisper, sharp as a knife. And suddenly, memories that were not her own flooded through her mind. The betrayal of humanity. The visions came in flashes. A fleet arriving on HFY 9, searching for something beyond the stars. A war they didn't understand. A force they couldn't control. The last survivors sealing the chamber, trapping something inside. Sarah gasped, staggering under the weight of it all. The Exodus fleet, the explorers from Earth's past, hadn't just found an alien civilization. They had found something else, and they had tried to use it. They thought they could wield my power, the entity said, still watching her. But they were weak. So they locked me away, hoping to forget. Sarah clenched her fists. That's not possible. Humans wouldn't. The entity laughed. You think your kind is pure. That they are explorers, not conquerors. The chamber shifted. Walls rippled like liquid metal, reshaping into new images. Sarah saw them, humans, long ago, standing in this very chamber. Their uniforms bore the insignia of the Exodus fleet, their faces grim as they activated the prison seal. They weren't saving the galaxy. They were saving themselves. They feared what I could make them become. Sarah's stomach twisted. Had humanity really discovered something so powerful, and then abandoned it? Had they betrayed it, or had they betrayed themselves? The voice that wouldn't leave. Sarah turned back to the figure on the throne. If you're so powerful, why are you still here? She asked. The entity smiled. Because I needed someone like you. A chill crawled down Sarah's spine. The first humans were too afraid. But you are different. You heard my voice, and instead of running, you listened. Sarah swallowed. I don't trust you. You don't have to. The change has already begun. Her fingers twitched. A sharp ache spread through her veins. She could feel it. Something inside her was shifting. Her senses were sharper, her reflexes faster, the whispers louder. She was becoming something else, and part of her didn't want to stop it. The arrival of the Terek, a sudden, deafening alarm, shattered the moment. The chamber shook. Sarah spun around as red warning lights flashed across the walls. Symbols twisted and reformed, their meaning clear. Unauthorized access detected. The ground trembled. Somewhere above, the surface was breaking open. The Terek were coming. They know, the entity whispered. Sarah's pulse quickened. Of course they did. The Terek had spent centuries guarding the Forbidden Zone, warning anyone who dared come close. Not because they feared the past, but because they feared what was still alive inside it. And now, they were here to stop her. The final warning. Sarah turned back to the entity. What happens if I let you out? She asked. The smile widened. You already know the answer. Sarah's hands trembled. If the Exodus fleet had locked this thing away, it meant one of two things. They had made a mistake, and the entity had been a threat all along. They had been afraid of what they could become. She had a choice. Trust the Terek. Help them keep the entity sealed forever. Trust the entity. Embrace the power inside her and become something more. The walls cracked. The chamber collapsed. The Terek forces arrived, their weapons glowing with energy, their eyes filled with fear. Human, the Terek leader shouted. Step away from the throne. Now. Sarah stood between them and the entity. The whispers inside her mind grew louder. They will never let you leave alive. The Terek raised their weapons. Sarah raised her hands, and the ground beneath her erupted.